turn that night vision on, bro. Yeah.
Riley and Trev on the hunt, no capping. We ain't running, we ain't tripping, we just catching. What's happening? What goes bump in the night? What goes? What goes bump in the night? Creeping through the dark, something ain't right. Shadows in the trees, cold steel grip tight. Yeah, what goes bump in the night? West Coast stepping, 10 toes in the dirt. Lantern light flicker, feel the hex in the earth. Got the cam rolling, yeah, we deep in the field. Spirit talking through the box, tell me how do you feel? Hey, Trev got the static, Riley peeped the black mist. Chills in my veins like the Reaper done kissed. Ain't no cap, this a whole different plane. Ain't no explaining something, whispering my name. Hey, I hear the knock, don't open the door. Floorboards creak like never before. Eyes in the dark, they lurking, they waiting. We out here searching, the truth ain't escaping. What goes bump in the night? 100 on the dash, but the road ain't right. Lost in the fog, we ain't seeing no light. Yeah, what goes bump in the night? Big dog energy, we ain't folding or ducking. But the vibes in this house got the whole squad bugging. Demon in the attic, hear the claw mark scratch. If we open up the hatch, better pull us all back. Don't breathe, don't speak, let the spirits all talk. Wax for the reed, we been walking that walk. Up a pen deep woods where the dog man roaming. If we don't make it back, let them carve this in stone. Flicker, lights go black. Riley said he saw a shadow lurking in the back. Trevor caught a face in the EP track. Yeah, what goes bump in the night, that's facts. What goes bump in the night? What goes bump in the night? Creeping through the dark, something ain't right. Shadows in the trees, cold steel grip tight. Yeah, what goes bump in the night?
Hey, you hear that? Nah, keep the camera rolling. Man, I swear something just whisper my name. Hey, Riley, we leaving or we staying? Now we staying. We need answers.
Hello and welcome to What Goes Bump Tonight.
Your life after death. Yes.
Oh, what? Ooh, what the? Oh my god, am I still moving right now?
Why should we be afraid of you?
Hello and welcome to What Goes Bump in the Night. My name is Riley Clark. Alongside me, as always, is
Trevor Jensen.
And today we have a very unique episode for you.
I would definitely say it's unique.
It is unique. I don't know if there's another story out there that is quite like the one we're going to talk about today.
No siree. But before we dive into those, we should clear some notifications. We want to thank everybody
Bars loaded
once again for always coming back, making these live streams so goddamn enjoyable, because they really are. All of you in the chat, we see you. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being early. We appreciate all of you. Also,
yes.
Valentine's Day is coming up. Happy Valentine's Day. Mwah. It is
Hearts to all y'all in the chat.
Hearts.
Mel, those dweebs, Patty, Jess. I don't see anyone else in the chat yet, but we're getting there. Everyone will be joining, I'm sure, here still. It's still early in the night, but we also want to say thank you for everyone that tuned in to the impromptu premiere we had last week.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we got peer pressured, because I peer pressured Riley pretty fucking hard.
Yeah, he did.
It was so good.
We got it out. It's doing well. You guys, thank you for watching it. If you haven't yet, go over there. Take a gander at the investigation at Mouse Cemetery. And did we talk to the Reaper? I really don't think we did, but the voices and whatnot, some interesting stuff there, I guess.
Also, since we're talking about love and gushy stuff, Riley, I want to take a moment to say we appreciate all the work that you do. That video was phenomenal. We see you out there working hard on the social medias. Nobody does it better. Love you, buddy.
Thank you, bro. It means a lot.
Hell yeah.
But last and not least, if you haven't yet, make sure you like and subscribe.
It just feels so dirty.
It does. It feels wrong. It feels wrong.
It feels
we
wrong.
have to say it. We have to say it because it's the only
If
way for
you're
the channel
new-
to grow, and we're trying to hit that 1K mark. So
Polar plunge. Just gotta
let's
keep that fresh.
fill you in on what we're talking about. Yes, we are talking about a town that was potentially killed off multiple times, or maybe just once, by Bigfoot. Yes, you heard that
The
correctly.
Final frontier, Alaska. The vastness that is the Alaskan wilderness, and the abandonment that is some of these towns that just could not sustain due to what that might be. Well, why don't we just find out?
Yes. So if you haven't heard of this story before, we are talking about Portlock, Alaska,
Mhm.
also known as Port Chanam. It is one
In
of the most
specific.
terrifying and mysterious ghost towns in American history, nestled on the isolated, mist-shrouded southern tip of the Kenai Peninsula. I've been to the Kenai Peninsula. It is fucking awesome. It's my favorite part of Alaska. Just saying. It's absolutely gorgeous out there. But
While you're reading that, I'm going to pull
nighttime-
up some pictures.
yeah, at nighttime, it is a spooky place. All right. This once thriving settlement met a chilling fate, eerie disappearances, brutal deaths, and whispered legends of monstrous, otherworldly predators. Ultimately, it led its residents to an abandoned town by 1949 and never to return again. The tale of Portlock is steeped in horror and mystery. Mutilated bodies found deep in the wilderness, entire groups of men vanishing without a trace, enormous footprints that defy explanation, and the legend of the Nantique. Or Nantique?
So blurry. Nantique? Nantucket? Sorry, I got so sidetracked.
A towering, intelligent, and hostile creature said to stalk the forest even today. Those who venture into the area report unsettling encounters and overwhelming sense of dread, strange noises that seem to come from the trees, and the persistent feeling of being watched. But what really happened in Portlock? Was it a rogue predator, a supernatural force, or something even more sinister? And now we're going to tell you everything that we know about what happened in this town in Alaska.
So, the birth of Portlock, a remote Alaskan boomtown. Despite its harsh, unforgiving wilderness, Portlock was established in the early 1900s, drawn by the promise of the area's natural resources. The town was named after Captain Nathaniel Portlock, a British naval officer who explored the region in the late 1700s. By the 1920s, Portlock had transformed into a small yet prosperous community, its growth fueled by industries that thrived in the region's rugged environment. Portlock's bustling salmon cannery was the town's economic lifeblood, attracting settlers despite the harsh, isolated conditions. The cold, pristine waters off the Kenai Peninsula teemed with king, sockeye, and coho salmon, providing a consistent supply of fish that made commercial processing highly profitable. At its peak, the cannery employed a diverse workforce, including both native, Sagapeak? Is that how you say that? Sagapeak?
I think so.
I've never seen that, honestly. People in European American settlers. Men toiled long hours hauling heavy nets, cleaning the fish, while others operated the machinery that processed and canned the salmon. Women and children played vital roles as well, handling the packing and labeling to ensure the final product was ready for shipment. Once processed, the canned salmon was shipped out by boat to markets beyond Alaska, fueling demand in the continental United States and even internationally. The cannery's success made Portlock a vital outpost in the region's fishing industry, offering steady employment to those willing to endure the rugged and often dangerous environment. Now, we're underplaying here how dangerous and rugged that environment truly is.
Yeah, we're
'Cause the
talking
town
grizzly
itself
bears,
is bad.
wolves, Alaskan temperatures. That
When it gets harsh out there in those winters, we don't want to understate the fact that it is like a desperate
on top of that,
fight.
canneries were not safe in the early 1900s.
No, I wouldn't imagine, dude.
No, not at all. Like they were a very, very dangerous place to work, and a lot of people probably died and probably got canned. I'm not even lying.
Dude, it's like I've heard stories about people in Africa where they go on these game hunts, right? And I know that's already like a terrible thing in its own right, but like it's just a sad reality that it's happening. But then these stories come out where it's like these people that live in these towns, like the people will shoot the animals and then they'll give them like the ivory or like the pelt or whatever, but then they'll just fight, they'll just, you know, hack up the meat right there and take it back to their village. But like sometimes somebody might miss with one of the fucking axes they're using to cleave the meat and just like whack one of the guys, kill him, and then they'll just drag him off and continue like nothing happened.
It's probably what was happening in the canneries out there.
I was just gonna say that is exactly how I imagine that happening. Like somebody falls in the water and they're just going down river and it's
fucking
get another one.
20 degrees out and it's like, well, he's gone.
We need another guy. Like that's the sad reality of like life.
Oh, there'll be a train here next week. That's probably how they would think, bro. Honestly,
yeah, it's terrible too. But I mean,
well, there's supposed to be a train or a boat coming through in the next week, so we'll have someone.
That's how desolate these places were too, though. Like that, like as terrible as that is. I pulled up the
map. Like there's
nothing.
There's nothing.
So, however, not all workers stayed long. Reports of men disappearing near the riverbanks, bloody footprints leading into the woods, an uneasy feeling of being watched led many fishermen and cannery workers to quit suddenly and refuse to return, feeding into the town's growing reputation for mystery and fear. So, I mean, like we already just talked about how the environmental factors play a big role, but like that's not even to like even like really hint at the fact that like you're so remotely like secluded out there that any type of animal, whether that be some undiscovered species too, we'll get to that. You are
think about too like they're so far away. Money, it probably takes so long for money to get transported back then to Portlock fucking Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So what? They're having their payload. You know what I mean? They're having their payload paid off probably like once every 4 or 5 months.
If that, yeah.
Like I don't know how often a friggin' trader was coming through to like buy up all their
just
lumber.
Bringing them back money when it's like, nah, dude, the roads are like over snowed. Like I'm not bringing them their cash. They're just stuck out there.
The ocean's frozen, can't even get to you. Like
it gets the story of like Port Chatham itself is pretty crazy because once we get into like more of it and like the lone survivor is what I'll call him. It's crazy.
So yeah, let's get to the next thing that kept these people doing what they were doing, which was obviously logging.
Yep.
The logging operation in Portlock was another key industry that drew settlers into the area, capitalizing on the dense towering forests that stretched across the landscape. The region's timber was highly sought after, with spruce, cedar, and hemlock trees reaching impressive heights.
Oh, yeah.
And offering high quality wood use for everything from building materials to shipbuilding. Loggers would venture deep into the forest, feeling the giant trees with axes, saws, and later mechanized equipment. Once the trees were cut, the logs were carefully transported to the nearby coastline, where they were floated down the river or hauled over land to the sawmill and processing yards. From there, the timber was either sold locally or shipped out to the markets across Alaska and the Pacific Northwest. The work was grueling and dangerous, with men facing both the physical demands of logging in such a remote and wild region, as well as the constant threat of wild animals and harsh weather conditions. However, the promise of Steady pay and ever-present demand for timber made the job attractive to those willing to brave the wilderness. Yeah.
Logging.
But as with the cannery, the logging operation in Portlock was also fraught with danger and dread. Mysterious disappearances in the woods, loggers vanishing without a trace, or turning up mutilated in a way that defied any natural explanation, began to sour fear among the workers. Some reported hearing strange sounds in the forest, loud, unsettling noises that didn't match the calls of the animals, and consistent sense of being watched. As more men disappeared, many workers began to abandon their posts, refusing to stay overnight or work in certain areas of the forest. This left Portlock logging operations to face not only the danger of nature, but also the increasingly riskless workforce unwilling to continue.
This is where Portlock is on the Kenai Peninsula. It is the farthest it can be away from other civilizations, for real.
Yeah. I when you were reading, I pulled up the Google Maps, dog.
Because it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, like, where
It's way up there. We're way out there.
we're like over here. It's here.
It's here. Now, if I was a big, crazy, not crazy, like aggressive, you know what we're going to call it? Like, I don't want to call it a Sasquatch because maybe that isn't what it is, but like an unidentified bipedal, like ape-like creature, that makes sense. Because then some of these accounts are just like so much more validated. Because like we always say Sasquatch might not be like a big aggressive thing. But then again, you maybe haven't really ran into one.
There could be aggressive ones.
I would think that if you're living in a wilderness out there that's so remote and then you have people like come treading on your territory.
Why wouldn't there be at least one bad apple? You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. Well, and like bad apple maybe, but like at the same time, like it's like there's been people in the Americas for so much longer than Alaska. Like if you think about it, like down in the lower 50, like
I mean,
we're just,
there's
like,
always been
extinct down
Inuit
here.
people up there, and
True,
other
but there's
tribes.
just some remote areas like that. I don't think that were probably like inhabited for a very long time.
Probably not that spot. I do
I
know
wouldn't think so.
there was a. I think we might even touch on it later. We might not,
Mhm.
because I've only heard this in one other account, like channel I watched on this. Said that there was some type of tribe that had also tried to settle in that area and had similar experiences. We'll probably end up talking about it, but yeah, there was a native group in that area that also talked about the same things happening.
Yeah, and it's
People
been a
dying
local legend for a long time.
Yeah, so we'll continue to talk about the town here. Fur trapping and hunting played a significant role in Portlock's early economy, drawing both native Supac hunters and European settlers
That's it.
to the vast wild wilderness that surrounded the town. The area was rich with valuable game, including beaver, otter, fox, mink, and wolves.
Definitely.
Beaver, obviously, I think being the biggest one there.
Probably. I would
Otter
think so.
too. Otters too, for sure. All of which, had high demand in the fur trade, both locally and abroad.
Right.
The abundance of these animals in the forest and along the waterways made Portlock an ideal base for trappers looking to capitalize on the thriving fur industry.
Fishing and trapping.
Trappers would venture deep into the forest and mountains, setting traps and hunting for pelts that could be sold for substantial profit. The harsh Alaskan wilderness, with its rugged terrain and extreme conditions, demanded a high level of skill and perseverance. But the rewards were considerable. Pelts from animals trapped in the area were prized for the luxury used in coats, blankets, and other high-end products. In addition to trapping, small game and hunters would also pursue larger animals like moose, deer, and bear, providing not only meat for settlement, but also hides and other byproducts like fat.
Yep. For warmth.
Because I imagine they were doing oil-lit candles and lanterns back then.
Right. So, however, much of well, not much of. Much like the lodging and fishing industries, the fur and trapping and hunting expeditions into the wilderness soon became fraught with danger. Unexplained disappearances of hunters and trappers were frequent, with reports of men vanishing without a trace after heading out to set traps and track game. Some survivors who returned to Portlock spoke of violent encounters in the wild, where huge, terrifying creatures, believed to be many of the Nantinak, were said to stalk. I think that's what it is. Nantinak were said to stalk and ambush. Nantinak, yeah, that's what it is. That's definitely what it is. Was said to stalk and ambush hunters deep in the forest. As the disappearances grew, fear the unknown set. Some trappers and hunters claimed to have encountered enormous tracks near their camps or in the snow, larger than anything they'd ever seen before. These massive, unidentifiable footprints only fueled the growing belief that something unnatural was lurking in the wilderness, targeting those who dared to make a living from the land. The constant threat of hostile forces, whether natural or supernatural, began to drive hunters away, leaving Portlock's fur industry to collapse alongside the town's growing sense of dread. So with a post office, homes, and a school, even a small church, Portlock, though remote and surrounded by wilderness, had all the essential elements of a thriving, self-sustaining settlement, providing both practical needs and a sense of community for its residents. The post office, an essential part of any small town, served as the hub of communication for the outside world, especially important in such a remote location. It allowed families and workers in Portlock to send and receive letters, supplies, and news from distant cities. For those living in the area, the post office wasn't just a place to pick up mail, but a gathering point, a link to the wider world beyond the dense forest and rugged coastline. The town and homes for residents, many of the modest functional structures built to withstand the harsh Alaskan environment. These homes ranged from simple log cabins to more established weatherproof buildings. Inside, residents lived in close-knit communities, often relying on others for both mutual support and protection against the natural dangers of the wilderness. Despite the town's isolation, families formed tight bonds, working together in the cannery, logging, and fur trade. The community of settlers, a mix of Sagapak, I think that's how, I don't know, natives and European American workers, created a unique cultural fusion that shaped the town's daily life.
So this is actually all that's left.
That's it.
And
isn't that the post office?
No, this cabin's gone now. I don't remember
what
this is, but yeah, this is all that's left, but it's gone now.
But like, once again, like, pull that picture back up for just a second. Let's just take a moment to just look behind that little structure and look at how thick that wood is. Like, that isn't just like a little bit of brush, like, to a tree line. That is a tree line.
Look how tall those trees are compared to that.
It's unreal how thick.
I mean, this is probably like what, 12 feet max up to
at
here.
least, yeah. It's big. Like,
I mean, they made doors like barely 5.5 feet back then. So
it's, dude, that is one of those, like, you stand in a field, look around, and you see trees around you that are like that, and you kind of feel a little bit like overwhelmed almost. Like, it's like one of those, like, it's just coming in feelings.
Here's another.
Like, can you imagine how dark it gets too? Like, when it starts to like get a little bit darker out, it's probably pitch black in there.
So, like, let's just picture it. We'll just say that this is probably what the post office looks like. Look at you, and I can attest that. Like, when you go to Alaska, I remember we were driving in Kenai Peninsula, and I was like, Dad, we got to pull over so I can take a leak. And I went to the edge of the woods, and I literally took one step into the woods, and I couldn't see the highway anymore. Not even kidding you. One step, and I like looked back, and I couldn't even see the highway.
Hey Siri, where do you hide the body? I'm just kidding.
God damn it, dude! My phone actually grabbed that.
It works. And it says the Kenai Peninsula. That'd be fucking wild.
But yeah, it is that thick.
That's It's all inspiring right there.
I think, yeah, there is a couple like old photos of the town. I'll see if I can.
I would say the actual photos of the town back in the day when it was thriving is actually pretty interesting because it looked like a lively town. It doesn't give the indication that it was going to fold the way it did. But then again, you don't know. You good?
I mean, that looks like a well-built building. Like, honestly,
it does.
Look at that. That looks like a really nice like port area.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they got plenty of heat. You know what I mean? Looks like we have, you know, a good amount of houses over here on the.
And then people start to go missing
side.
one by one. 30 people, I think, is what they said in like the span of like one like cycle of like not even a full year.
Here we go. There's actually an aerial photo from before the town like
Riley, does Alaska have big ass bugs? I know that's a wild question.
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea. I'm uncultured as hell.
So here's an aerial view. It's probably from on top of one of the mountains, but
makes sense. But like that doesn't give the indication that it's just gonna fold. Like it.
I mean, look, they got a little lighthouse out here.
LaBarge area. The town actually looks like it's pretty much like self-sustaining, like they were saying. Beautiful access to the water. But then here we go. This creature that comes out of the woods and is snatching people one by one by one by one. Or is it one of the real life boogeymen that somebody out there was a real life monster and was like murdering people in the woods? It could be either.
I don't know.
It's one of those things, dude. People can be real life boogeymen. Oops.
I want to see how close I've actually been to Portlock. Oh, I've been pretty close.
Have you actually? You could have actually went hunting for ghost and or squatches, and you did not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been to Seward, which is pretty much
the closest town, pretty much. We should Kickstarter for the road to Alaska.
Yeah,
send us to Alaska.
All right. We'll get back to the facts, y'all.
So, Portlock also boasted a small school, a rare feature in such a remote location, reflecting the town's aspirations to be a permanent settlement. The schoolhouse, likely a one-room building, served as a place for children to receive basic education, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Math. Preparing the next generation for life in an unforgiving environment. While the school may have been small, it played a crucial role in unifying the community, giving families a sense of stability and continuity amidst the harsh conditions in the area. At the heart of Portlock was even a small church, both a beacon of spiritual solace and a community gathering. For many settlers, particularly in a town so far removed from urban centers, the church was not only a place of worship, but also a place for social interaction and support. It offered a sense of hope and comfort, especially as tensions mounted with the increasing reports of disappearances and growing unease among the residents. The church would have been a sanctuary, a place to seek spiritual strength in times of uncertainty and fear. And boy, oh boy, did they live in some uncertain and fearful times.
They sure did.
Well, not only that, to deal with like a full year of bright, but then like you get a full year of dark, and then you get a full year of fucking squatches coming out of your woods and just plucking your fucking people.
It's only like 3-4 months, I think.
It might as well be a year. I mean, seasonal depression hits like a goddamn truck. That's the truth.
I tell you what, the whole light for like 18 hours thing is crazy.
That would really mess me up.
Being outside and it being like at 11 o'clock at night and it's just like daytime. This is the weirdest thing ever. It messes with you, man. It really does.
My circadian rhythm is already screaming at me, don't do that.
So that's the thing too. Does like that type of thing play into a factor with all of this?
That's a good point. Like, could it be people are like damn near hallucinating from like lack of sunlight or lack of more sunlight than needed?
That's true.
Maybe it's true.
That's a good point, Jess. All right. So with these foundations, homes, a post office, and a school and a church, Portlock resembled a self-sustaining, hopeful town. The early settlers poured their energy into building a community that could endure despite the harsh environment and the looming threats of both nature and supernatural. However, as the unsettling events began to mount, disappearances, deaths, and strange phenomena, the very infrastructure that symbolized the town's promise would soon become a symbol of its inevitable collapse as the fear and dread drove the remaining residents to flee. Portlock's population was a unique blend of Sapak, Native Alaskan people, and European American settlers, each group coming to the region with different motivations, but united by the promise of steady work and potential for prosperity.
Money.
The Sapak, whose ancestral lands stretched across the Kenai Peninsula, were familiar with the harsh wilderness and the challenges of living off the land. Many of them had worked in fishing, hunting, and trapping for generations and saw the new settlement as an opportunity to expand in their livelihoods and share in the wealth brought by the booming cannery, logging, and fur industries.
Because hot damn.
For the European American settlers, Portlock offered the allure of a frontier town ripe with opportunity for those willing to endure the isolation and physical demands of such a remote outpost. Whether they were seeking work in the salmon canneries or the logging industry or as trappers and hunters, many saw the town as a chance to build a new life in a reputatively untapped region. The promise of wealth from the natural resources was a powerful draw, and for a time, Portlock flourished as a mixed community of cultures and backgrounds. However, from the very start, Portlock was plagued by a series of strange and unsettling events that set it apart from other frontier settlements. Vanishings, gruesome deaths, and encounters with something unnatural began to haunt the town, shaking the residents' sense of security. Men who ventured into the wilderness for hunting or logging purposes would sometimes disappear without a trace, only their mutilated bodies to be discovered later, sometimes torn apart in ways that seemed far beyond the reach of any known predator. Local hunters familiar with the territory and accustomed to the dangers of the wild animals would speak in hushed tones about the unexplained disappearances. However, entire parties of men would vanish without warning. And how strange footprints, much larger than any known animals, would be found near their camps.
Oh.
The once familiar sounds of wildlife in the forest and along the rivers became overshadowed by unnatural, terrifying noises that would echo through the night. Howls, grunts, and the sound of something massive moving through the woods. Sapak people who had lived in the region for centuries carried their own dark lore about the wilderness, warning newcomers of supernatural presences that worked within. In particular, many of the native Alaskan residents believed in the legend of the what was it again?
Oh, fuck.
Nantic?
Nonatic?
Nanotic.
Nonatalk.
Nonatalk.
That's what it is.
Figure it out, people.
I'm sorry.
I want to say this stuff right, and
I know.
My
If
brain
we're
doesn't want
offending,
to say it.
I feel bad, but fuck, it's hard to say.
Trying our best here.
Words are hard.
A monstrous ape-like creature with immense strength and the malevolent disposition, the creature they claimed was capable of stalking and hunting humans, targeting those who ventured too far into the woods or wandered off the beaten path. For the Sapak, the idea of the Nanotalk was not merely a superstition, but a deeply ingrained belief in something truly evil that existed within the forest, an entity that respected no boundaries and had no interest in human life.
That's where I'm gonna like play it back into like it's an aggressive. If we are talking about a Bigfoot here, So like we can kind of like just segue a little bit off of the script for a second. We can do our own little thing and talk a little bit about it. Because now that we're getting into a little bit of these first-hand accounts, big feet. Okay, yeah, that's very indicative of a Yeti, a Sasquatch, a very large, burly type of creature. Yes. But
let's talk about the creatures that are out there.
Yes.
That are large and make scary noises.
I was just going to say that. We have to.
And that, of course, is a grizzly bear.
Yep. Or
that
even
will kill 10 men without even trying.
It's not even uncommon for straight up polar bears to like venture down there.
Could have been a
they
polar
are
bear.
of you. There's like a sliding scale of colors where you see a brown bear, you're still like kind of fucked. You see,
I don't know
black
if
bear
polar bears have ever been found in that area,
but I wouldn't even surprise me to see a polar bear venture that
back
far
then,
out.
like when the ice caps were lower.
Yeah, maybe. And those are like the straight up will kill you bears. They might look cool and they're white, but they want that white fur to be red.
Yeah, they like the color red.
Jess is right. Giants are another really, really interesting fact that like the ancient Sumerians definitely there were fucking giants. There were giants that roamed this earth. There are bones in the Smithsonian from giant like races. I wouldn't even doubt that maybe what we see nowadays is a leftover giant species.
Maybe. We'll get more into the theories later.
Right.
As brutal deaths continued to unfold, the European settlers, many of whom were unfamiliar with darker aspects of native folklore, began to grow increasingly fearful. The mysterious nature of the deaths, combined with the reports of supernatural encounters, left people unsettled and on edge. Cannery workers, loggers, and hunters would initially come to Portlock in search of wealth and a better life, soon found themselves grappling with a growing sense of dread, unsure of whether the town was simply unlucky or whether something truly sinister was at play.
Well, let's think about this too. The town probably was pretty profitable. If they were able to afford to make a straight up church, a school, and have all of those amenities being as far out as it was, it had to have turned a profit. It had to have.
I think it was. I think it was doing really well. I think it wasn't for the amount of people it had in it. It was probably doing really well.
But then, like when you
but I will say, whenever I do a city builder game and I wealth and everything that they have, it never succeeds. It always
not
dies.
only that, dude, like the sinister feelings that these people are feeling and like that this area is imposing does not sound very natural. Because like Alaska in itself is a beautiful wilderness. It's a beautiful vastness. Like you go out there and you will lose yourself in Alaska.
It is beautiful, but it is unforgiving. It does not care about you.
So I wonder, where does this plot thicken where it's like as soon as you step foot into town, do you just get that eyes on you feeling and it's not like something's wrong even though everything could be right?
Well, you just gotta hang with us, folks, because we're gonna get there. Trevor wants that he wants
I like it.
Answer right now.
I like the insta answer.
Well, we got to work through this.
So, the rumor mill. Rumors of hauntings and malevolent forces spread quickly, especially as more people vanished or were found dead under mysterious circumstances. The town's once promising future began to seem like a fragile facade, cracked by the mounting terror of an invisible, dangerous force lurking in the woods. As the years went by, the incidents continued to escalate even. The settlers, Native Alaskan, and European American alike began to look over their shoulders, wondering if they had been drawn to Portlock by something more than just promised by work and prosperity. Some even believed the land itself was cursed, promising, marked by the dark presence of the Nanitok, or some other form of unseen evil that preyed upon those who dared to settle in its midst. Bomb, bomb, bomb.
So, now is the time that we're going to talk about this creature. We're going to really dive into the lore of this creature and figure out why they think it was a Bigfoot.
It's a predator in the woods.
How do you say it? I'm never going to say it.
Nanitok.
Right. Nanitok.
Nana talk. The Nan don't talk. Just think of Indian bread. Nan don't talk. Nana talk.
Nana talk. All right. Long before Portlock was established as a bustling settlement, the native Sapak people who had lived in the region for centuries had always warned outsiders of a terrifying presence that lurked in the forest. Their oral traditions and legends spoke of a dangerous, malevolent force in the wilderness, Nanatok, a creature so terrifying and powerful that it was woven into the fabric of their belief. The Sapak people stepped in their knowledge of the land, knew better than to venture deep into the forest mountains, and the Nanatok was said to roam. They passed down these warnings to anyone who would listen, particularly settlers who arrived hoping to capitalize on the area's natural resources. According to their stories, the Nanatok was not just an ordinary creature, it was far more than a mere beast. It was described as a massive humanoid figure resembling the famous Bigfoot of the Pacific Northwest, but far more sinister and intelligent. Unlike the passive Sasquatch, often depicted in other folklore, the Nanatok was known for its hostile nature and terrifying aggression. It didn't merely exist in the shadows of the forest. It was a predator, an apex being that actively hunted humans. The Sapak believed that this creature wasn't just an animal, but something deeply connected to the spirit world, a force that existed with a malevolent purpose.
That's fucking scary. Think about that, dude. We think of Sasquatch as being just like this hairy docile, like give me a hug, Harry. Like what's that movie?
Ted?
No, not Ted. That is it's a good example of also if aliens were to come to Earth and they're just like chill as fuck. But like Harry and the Hendersons, I think that's what it's called. Like it's the older one where Sasquatch is like with a family and he's like really nice.
I don't know that one.
No, you don't know? Okay, well, I'm reaching real deep. But like we think of, like very docile, nice, scared of people, basically hides away from the world. This thing is like you go out in the woods with your dog and your dog is getting chucked back at you.
In half.
Yeah, like, and it's it's howling and running at you.
And then this thing grabs you and then eats you from your intestines out.
Like it's mean. It's gnarly. People are legitimately coming up missing and eviscerated in the woods. This is what we're like not like super like leaving into because like those are trigger warnings. Trigger warning. But fuck. So physically, this thing is fucking also imposing as shit. So like, let's just take this into account. Generally, I would say most people on average nowadays are probably around the 5'10" to fucking 6 foot mark. Would you say like men generally? Probably women would be 5'9" to 5'11".
Probably more or less. Most of them are that.
More or less, range. Yeah, I would say more or less. So
probably a couple dudes that are over 6 foot or whatever, but
yeah, generally. So like physically, when you see this Nantok, this Sasquatch thing that's aggressive and mean, it's 8 to 12 feet tall. So it's doubling what a normal person is, plus some extra, just a couple extra.
It's like the size of 2 men.
Yeah, it's fucking that's just enough imposing for me to be like, that's a giant. Once again, a giant, you say?
It's very strange that it's also around the same size that a grizzly bear would be. Just saying.
It's that is also very interesting. You're not wrong though. You're very much so not wrong. And when they stand on their hind legs, very much so, and they have claws, but who's to say? So much taller than a human, even larger than a bear would say, but we don't know what the biggest bear out there could possibly be because that wilderness is so huge. So its body was said to be covered in a thick, dark hair, which helped it blend into the dense wilderness, giving it an almost ghostly presence. The immense size was coupled with the extraordinary strength, with accounts claiming that the Nanatak, I can't even say it now, Nanatok, was capable of crushing bones with a single swipe or tearing apart the bodies of its victims as they were nothing more than rag dolls. Just, I can just hear it now, dude. Like, it's just pulling one of them, like, just a chicken leg, just right off. Don't need it.
Like nothing.
Nothing. You thought Harry and the Hendersons was cute. Now you got Nanatak fucking panic attack. So what set the Nanatak apart from other creatures in the forest was its intelligence and cunning. The Sagapak people described it as stealthy and patient and a calculating hunter that would often stalk its prey for days or even weeks, observing human activity from a distance. Nanataks, I couldn't help but giggle because it's just like, I can't imagine, because like technically we're the apex here, but like you can't tell me that there's nothing more terrifying than having that feeling of being watched. And I know this is what these people were enduring, but like feeling that feeling all the time and then actually having that feeling come to fruition.
Let's just set the mood here. Like, let's say you're a hunter or a logger in the early 1900s. You are heading out for the day to set your traps. You're going, all right, I'm going to set it up on this ridge. Like 5 days. I'm going to be gone for a week. It's going to take me a week to get there and a week to get back.
A major trek.
You're going to be gone for a while. No one's even going to know where you're at because it's your secret hunting spot.
Yep.
You go out there. The entire time you're walking, you're hearing boom, boom, or like snarls, like it's subtly letting you know that you're being watched. You're freaking out, like fucking A, like what is this? What's going on? And then on your trek back, it's just boom, because it knows where you're going to be going, and it just hits you on your trail.
And it knows you'll be most vulnerable when you have your wiener in your hands. It's going to attack you when your back's turned. It don't give a fuck.
Most likely when you're taking a poop, it's going to get you.
Bro, could you imagine having your limbs ripped off while you're just dropping a deucer? Damn, that would suck. All right, so the Nanataks, I want to say Nanatak because it's like it wants to attack, but it's not a Nanatak, it's a Nanatalk.
We can call it whatever we want at this point.
It's Nanatalk.
We're never going to say it right.
No, hell no, we're not. But its ability to remain unseen and its deliberate tracking of individuals and its eventual ambushes made it an even more terrifying adversary. Unlike other wild creatures, it was driven solely by hunger. It seemed to take pleasure in fear and helplessness of victims. This creature was also fiercely territorial. It wasn't simply avoiding humans. The Nanatak defended its domain, often attacking anyone who dared to enter its space. It was not a creature of fear, but of dominance and violence, often considered to be an embodiment of nature's darker side, unpredictable, unforgiving, and merciless. Oh, fuck, dude, Billy. No, Billy. That would be a fun skit.
That would be a good one. Despite the Supex people warning and their deeply rooted beliefs about the Nanatak, the settlers who arrived in Portlock were quickly to dismiss these tales. Many of the European immigrants saw them as superstitious, the product of
because they were European
primitive culture, and felt certain that their own modern understanding of the world would keep them safe.
Exactly.
They were drawn to the promise of natural resources, from the salmon-rich waters to the abundant timber and game in the surrounding wilderness, and they ignored the warnings of the indigenous people. It was a common attitude among settlers in the early 1900s, despite the desire for prosperity clouded any fears of the unknown. That is until people started disappearing.
Yeah, people just
vanishing without a trace, often out in the forest hunting. These were not simply cases of getting lost in the wilderness. The mysterious disappearances were followed by the disappearances and discovery of mutilated bodies, men particularly, whose remains were found torn apart, their limbs ripped from their torsos, their faces and bodies crushed in ways that seemed impossible for animals to inflict. It was clear to those who remained in Portlock that something far more unnatural was at work.
All right, hear me out. Hear me out. This isn't so crazy, but aliens. No, but for real though, if it's a bear, what the fuck?
This is a nasty bear. Like,
what the fuck?
Mind you, when I went to Alaska the first time when I went to the Russian River, there was a bear who had killed a few people.
So he had the taste.
He had eaten like 2 people, but killed like 7 in the past 2 years, something like that. He was a scary ass fucking bear. I seen his tracks, bro. He was huge. They killed him like the week after I left, but he was down at the river the day I was there. I just didn't see him.
That is wild, though.
I seen different bears.
Luckily for you, because he had a taste for blood, dude.
I seen grizzly bears that day. I seen 3, but
it wasn't no blood bear.
And I seen his tracks. I kid you not, his track was bigger than my head. Mind you, I'm not a big guy, but
cocaine bear. Just as right. Cocaine bear it is. That story is real, though. The dude that stole a plane, had a bunch of cocaine, was going down and had to like lighten the load, just started hucking cocaine, and a bear ate like 2 kilos of cocaine.
What the bear did is not true, though. It died.
No, instantly. It fucking died. It got way too high and OD'd. Didn't go on a rampage, but Cocaine Bear is real.
That was a great movie.
It was something.
Soon it became impossible for anyone to ignore the warnings of the Nanotic. The once dismissed folklore began to take a much darker meaning. The settlers who had once mocked the stories now found themselves fearful of the most very forests they had once sought to conquer. What had been dismissed as superstition, as now seen as the truth, terrifying to deny. The Nanotic was not a myth. It was a very real malevolent presence, and has been there in the forest, Portlock, long before the settlers arrived. All right, now let's dive a little bit into these deaths, because there's some weird shit that actually went on with them.
There are.
Because they were extremely violent.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like we touched on the one, but like that's not just that's the tip of the spear. We have so much more to cut. So as early as the 1900s, Portlock was plagued by strange and unsettling events. The first indications of something profoundly wrong came when men started disappearing without a trace. Hunters, loggers, and fishermen would venture into the surrounding forest or head out onto the waters, only to never return. At first, the towns assumed that the disappearances were just unfortunate accidents, which, I mean, I would also assume that. Immediately, that's where my brain goes to. But the victims were just of the treacherous waters or the treacherous lands around. But where the rugged terrain was unforgiving, and weather and the dangerous wildlife made it easy to lose track of those who ventured too far, disappearances still continued. And more and more men were lost to the wilderness. The town began to feel the undeniable sense of unease. But also, like we said, the mutilated body starting to turn up also adds more of an unsettling ease. Just a little bit.
It really does. It really does. So by the 1920s, the situation took a terrifying turn, with the disappearances becoming far more sinister in nature.
1920s, people.
So this is 20 years in. 20
years flappers.
Mutilated bodies were found in woods. When the missing men were eventually discovered, their bodies would be found in unspeakable brutality. The remains were so badly torn apart that it was evident that these were no ordinary animal attacks. Limbs, like we said, were ripped, their skulls shattered, pieces of their body would be distributed all around the forest.
What you think somebody would do to like somebody who spited their entire family and killed their firstborn?
Like we're talking like Mortal Kombat finish.
Yes, like rip their spine out, finish them type brutalities. Doesn't make any sense.
The next thing is the blood-stained riverbanks. One of the most chilling reports that came from fishermen who worked along the rivers that flowed through the area. They began discovering pools of blood along the riverbanks, often in places that showed no signs of struggle. There were no animal tracks, to explain the blood, and no human footprints were found to indicate the source. Bloodstains were often discovered in spots that seemed deliberately chosen, isolated, and far from any settlement, with no explanation for how the blood arrived in these areas. The mysterious blood pools further fueled the suspicion that something unnatural was causing the death, and the town grew increasingly fearful what could leave bloodstains with no accompanying body or tracks.
What could it be? What
I
could it
think
be?
I think it might be red tide, but I don't know if it happens. I don't
That's a
know. I
really
think
good point.
that's a warm weather thing. So I think that's debunked. But if there
But
is
then
like
again,
if there is a cold weather red tide, I'm gonna look that up real now.
that's actually a good point. But I mean, regardless, like if it is blood being placed on the sides of these riverbanks deliberately, it could just be the fact that like this nanotok just decided to wash up and just like
Okay, yeah. Red tide is strictly warm water.
strictly warm water. Well, that debunks that.
It's very rare, but it has occurred on the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, well, I mean, then there's a potential still, but we weren't there. We don't know. There's no actual, other than matter of fact, fucking talkery. So,
a little deeper on this because I think
deeper. Go deeper.
it has occurred in Alaska before.
Oh, blood sacrifice to bless the land.
Just saying. I mean, we're
oof.
gonna throw debunks out there every once in a while.
You kind of have
That
to.
could explain the red marks.
But
they didn't know about that. They didn't know about that shit back then.
They didn't. I wouldn't have known about that shit. I don't know about that shit until just now. So cannery and lodging workers fleeing. The fear that had begun to spread through Portlock was soon felt most acutely among the town's workforce. The cannery and logging crews, particularly those of the native Alaskan descent, became increasingly unsettled. Many of these workers, who had deep cultural ties to the land and its legends, believed that the Nanotok was not just a creature from their ancestors' stories, but a very real and active threat. In fact, as the mysterious deaths and disappearances mounted, many workers began to quit, too terrified to stay in Portlock any longer. Some left for good, fleeing in the middle of the night, unwilling to face the dangers that were lurking just beyond the tree line. Entire crews of workers refused to stay overnight in the area, leaving their job in the cannery or the logging sites without a word, certain that they were working in the shadow of something malevolent. These mass departures were not just the actions of superstitious individuals. They were the responses of people whose experiences had led them to believe that the Portlock was cursed and the Nanotok, the creature from the Sagapak legends, was very much alive. As these events escalated, the town's population began to shrink as a fear and uncertainty settled over the residents. The combination of mysterious disappearances, gruesome deaths, and the overwhelming sense of dread left no room for doubt. The town was no longer a place for for the brave or the hopeful. For those who stayed, it was increasingly clear that the force haunting Portlock was something beyond human comprehension, and something that, for reasons unknown, seemed determined to drive them all away. The town was afraid, but the worst was yet to come. Come yet come.
Did you come yet?
I think I might have. This story just keeps getting deeper and darker and crazier. Because like we might have like tickled at certain things and like told you like people might have been getting mutilated, but like it gets more fucked up. It's crazy.
All right. 1931 murders and the postmaster's warning. The most chilling and confirmed incident in Portlock's terrifying history occurred in 1931. This is an exact fact. Like this actually happened. We know for sure. When a group of local townsmen ventured deep into the dense wilderness, they were a mix of hunters and loggers, men accustomed to the dangers of the Alaskan terrain, but they had no idea what awaited them and that this would be their final journey. After several days, the group failed to return, and search parties were sent out to find them. What they uncovered was beyond anything anyone in Portlock could have imagined. The bodies of the men were found scattered in the woods, each one subjected to unimaginable brutality. The gruesome scene. So yeah, this is,
limbs ripped apart. Multiple people this time, though. A full group of grown-ass men that were loggers. Actually physical laborers that I think could defend themselves.
Probably jacked, and they probably had all kinds of weapons on them. They're hunting.
I mean, if you have 15 people to one bear, I think they're going to take the bear.
Yeah, I think in this case they would definitely. But here's what gets weird. They found all of this, right? These mutilated bodies, skulls crushed, bones ripped apart, guts everywhere, brains scattered, brain matter everywhere.
Flesh just shredded.
I mean, picture the most violent, grotesque scene you could probably ever imagine. There was no signs of animal tracks or predators.
Nope.
There was no bear, no wolves, or any other predator that had tracks anywhere near these bodies.
What could it be? What could it be?
Some of their faces were even disfigured. Their scalps were fully removed.
Like what the fuck? This is like on a level of like a whole nother bullshittery. Like what
10 years later, we have the nightmare and the final abandonment of the town. The thing that sends it over the top.
Oh boy.
I skipped over the Portman.
No, I got you. By the 1940s, dog. The 19 40s. So we're entering World War II times. Like this is crazy.
I gotta go back a little bit.
You go back a little bit? I go back a little bit.
Yep.
I see where you're going too.
Okay. So after this horrific discovery marked a turning point for the town, fear was no longer an abstract concept. It had been confirmed that something beyond human understanding had claimed these men, and the reality of Portlock's terrifying situation had become undeniable. In the wake of discovery, the town's portmaster, who had been living with the growing sense of dread for years, finally reached his breaking point. Unable to stomach the escalating violence and supernatural terror that seemed to haunt every corner of Portlock, he resigned from his position, packing his belongings, and left town for good. Before he left, he had made a chilling statement to the remaining townspeople, one that would echo through the years to come.
Oh boy.
This town, this is in quotes, this town is doomed. If you're smart, you'll leave before it's too late.
Is that what Alaskans sound like?
They sound like everybody, dude. It's a melting pot up there.
It's true.
His warning was not one of superstition, but one rooted in undeniable horror that had already claimed the lives of so many. The postmaster's departure was a symbolic moment in Portlock's history, an indication that the town was unraveling and no one, not even the most established members of the community, were safe. His chilling words would become a grim prophecy as more and more residents chose to abandon Portlock in the face of the unspeakable horrors that surrounded them. Now we'll jump into the final straw.
Ooh, fucking sound the alarms. Everything is going to shit. People are dying everywhere.
It is the apocalypse in Portlock.
Yes. And once again, I will reiterate this. The 1940s, not that long ago. Like really not that long ago. So by the 1940s, Portlock had descended into a full-blown state of terror. The town, once a thriving community, was now a shell of its former self, with only a handful of residents too afraid to leave. Fear hung in the air like a suffocating fog, and the once bustling cannery and logging operations were now a ghostly quiet. The townspeople lived in constant dread, locking their doors tightly at night and avoiding the woods at all costs. Even in the daylight, every sound seemed amplified, and every shadow cast by the towering trees felt like a harbinger of doom. The terror reached its breaking point with a series of terrifying incidents that ultimately led to the town's complete collapse. Number 1. A group of hunters found dismembered in the forest. Once again, a group of men. A party of experienced hunters, known for their toughness, ventured into the woods one morning, never to return. When search parties found them days later, the scene was so horrific that it sent a wave of panic through the remaining residents. The bodies of the hunters had been brutally dismembered once again, their arms, legs, and heads missing or torn from their torsos. Some were found with their insides ripped out, and their faces were so mangled that identification was impossible.
So they couldn't even tell who was who.
Nope. That's fucked. Their wounds were unnatural, suggesting that something superhuman had been responsible. The very idea that humans could inflict such damage on each other was terrifying. But the lack of any predator tracks or signs made it clear that the killer was something far more sinister. Go ahead, dog.
A logger's hysterical flight from the forest. In a particular chilling incident, a logger who had been working in the forest near the outskirts of town returned to Portlock in a state of hysteria. His clothes were torn, his face was pale with terror. He reported that while in the woods, he had seen a massive shadowy figure moving between the trees, watching him from a distance. He claimed that the creature was huge, its dark silhouette almost blending with the forest, but it was clear enough that he could make out its enormous size. He spoke of a feeling of being hunted as the creature was stalking him, waiting for the right moment to strike. Frantic and disoriented, the logger ran for miles without looking back, but the bone-chilling image of the creature remained burned into his mind. That was the last time he stepped foot near the town. He never spoke of the incident again. His terrifying account only further reinforced the growing belief that something monstrous and otherworldly was lurking just beyond the town's borders.
More and more and more people believe that it's something supernatural, and I believe it. I don't think that it's necessarily Bigfoot. I think it is what they speak of, this nanotalk, where it's like, holy jumping, dude, this thing is nasty. I do not want to encounter it. So now this is some more of the more interesting accounts, I would say. So number 3, massive footprints found around town. Perhaps the most undeniable sign that something unnatural was in the area came when footprints far too large to be from any known animal were discovered around the town. The footprints were measured to be between 16 to 20 inches. So we're talking up to almost 2 feet. That's insane. That's fucking huge. Barefoot, too, at that. Because you can probably see its mandibles, everything. Is it digits or mandibles? I don't know. Far larger than any bear or human track.
Digis.
Digis.
These Digimon.
Yeah, it is a at this point, it might as well be a fucking Digimon, dude. It is unreal to think that something that big is lurking and is that intelligent and fucking stealthy that will fuck your world up.
Fuck it right up.
Yep, your whole day is done.
Your whole life is done.
Done. Your head is now over there. So these marks appeared at the edge of town. Even more fucking scary, dude. Where the forest began to encroach on the settlement. They seemed to move in and out of the woods, occasionally found near houses and outbuildings. It's fucking peeking in your windows.
And snatching your people up.
You better get the fuck away from the Nantalk. So as if the creature was observing the residents from the shadows. Of course it was. The footprints were massive, and the depth of the prints suggested enormous weight, as though something gigantic had been walking through the area. The local authorities could not identify any known creature capable of leaving such prints, and some believe that the marks were that of the Nanotalk, the legendary creature from the native Alaskan folklore that had long been tied to the region. There you go, clean cut, tied. It's fucking real. Maybe. I mean, I really fucking think it is.
And then the mass exodus of 1949.
Once again, people can still be alive too. That's the crazier part.
The crazier part is that one person actually lived through the attack.
That's the crazier
He said, "I'm
part.
the fuck out of here, dude.
I'm the champion. I'm out."
He's the winner.
He's the winner.
He won at life.
He did his job.
Okay, by 1949, the town was completely abandoned. The last of the residents fled in panic, unable to bear the growing fear any longer. They packed up whatever belongings they could carry and left behind homes, businesses, and entire lives. Some left in such a hurry that the entire homes were found fully furnished, with possessions left scattered as if the residents had every intention of returning. Furniture, personal items, and clothes were abandoned in the midst of the exodus, as though the people had been caught in a rush so desperate that there was no time to even consider packing up. The exodus was so abrupt that the town was left frozen in time. Its roads silent, its buildings empty, its streets eerily still. And to this day, it remains a ghost town. We don't know if a building is there or not.
It's crazy.
And we've seen it as kind of like, it's a creepy little area. It really is.
It's just a cutout into the thicket.
So some people believe that it would potentially was a serial killer or multiple serial killers.
That brutality is on that level, though. Fuck, man.
That's the only thing that I think that's where the theory doesn't really work out.
No.
Is that it sounds so brutal. There's no way a human could have done any of this.
He's possessed by a demon.
And then, of course, the other probability is the Nanotuck, the creature that is so violent. And is it real or not? What did do you think that this creature could be real, Trev?
I definitely do. I 100% do. Like how we hear like the skunk ape, we hear Sasquatch, we hear Yeti. Those are probably just derivatives of one native creature that was roaming this earth.
So this is another potential subspecies of Bigfoot,
and
just a more violent one.
This one has that aggressive gene.
It's probably a more like solo type.
Well, think it's where it lives. It kind of has to be.
Yeah,
it's a much rugged, much more harsh environment. And like, I know, like we could say it could just be. I know your theory was fun with the direwolf theory, but like, how do you feel about that now?
See, I think I'd like direwolf, like maybe like one last like direwolf left somehow. I don't know.
The lone wolf.
Just some lone wolf that's just like extremely violent. I don't know. It's tough. Because then there's also the short, like in the short-nosed bear, which was larger than a grizzly bear.
Mm-hmm. That is technically extinct.
It stood at 11 feet tall. It went extinct 11,000 years ago, which
it could live.
Someone said that they killed one in like 1911, I want to believe. Maybe? But it was never proven that he actually did. Said he got attacked by it and shot it and it died.
That was it, though.
It was never proven that it was a short-nosed bear. So, and that was in that area of the Kenai area. So,
well, and if it's this Nanotuck, and it's everything they describe it to be, like all the native Alaskans up there. And they're saying that it is this straight up creature from our like straight up heritage, where it is a nasty sumbitch, and it is intelligent as hell. It has fucking lived in this woods longer than we've been here, and it's pissed. We're cutting down its forest. We're killing its fucking livelihood. Well, not livelihood, but probably its food, its sources.
Yeah,
and it doesn't like it. Territorial, yeah, territorial as fuck. That would make the most sense to me, because like, yeah, it could be a direwolf, it could be a short-nosed bear, it could be a species of creature that is technically supposed to be extinct but isn't. But what's the likelihood of that compared to the likelihood of it actually being what they're saying it is? I think what they're saying it is actually has a lot more value here, especially with all of the townsfolk going, there is 20-inch footprints weaving in and out of these fucking wood lines. Why would we fake that? Why are we faking that? Why?
Why would the whole town believe it? You know what I mean?
If it was, and at one point it looked bussin'.
It looked like
it was doing good. But then why would you immediately just like start fucking that up for all of you when you know you're going down with the ship? Because you know once that place goes down, there's nothing around. It's this or bust.
Oh, this is such an interesting story. Like,
it's It's more thick than I
Because
thought
it literally could go so many ways. Like
Mhm.
why these people were so terrified,
But
and like
it's
why.
Alaska. It's the
Yeah,
fucking
and then
mystery, dude.
on top of everything that it could be, then you got to add that it's Alaska.
It's the mysterious frontier, dude. I don't care what anybody says. It's one of the enigmas. It's where all of the UFO sightings, the abductions happen. Like we see some of the most fucking obscure things happen out in Alaska because of its rural populations. It's very undense populations as well. This is one of them where
And
what?
Alaska is known for like 50,000 people a year, probably more than that now, go missing in Alaska every single year.
Indigenous people. Yeah, that's the other thing, dude, is the indigenous populations are not well enough represented in the fact that there are so many people up there that will go missing. And that's not even just there, it's everywhere. It's like, I don't understand the fact that, like, in those places, it's just far more okay for people to go missing. And maybe it is of like terrible things, of like actual crimes, or it is actual like mysterious circumstances that like we cannot supernaturally unexplain.
It's literally endless. Like one
It
group
is.
could have went like this. One group could have actually got lost in the woods.
Very much so. Could have.
One group could have definitely got killed by a grizzly bear.
Could have.
One group could have definitely got eaten alive by wolves. Another group could have gotten eaten alive by this Nantucket. Another
The other
group
one abducted by aliens.
abducted by aliens. One group could have been fucking killed by serial killers.
Easily.
One person could have got killed in the cannery and just got pushed into the water and no
Loaded
one
down.
said anything about it. Like there's so many like things that
The
it could have
variables.
been. The variables here are almost endless.
Yep.
But yet there's no concrete proof of anything.
It's just the enough firsthand accounts, this whole town abandoning it, one last person saying, I'm gonna stick it out for a whole extra year, and then deciding like, fuck it, I'm done because this impending doom is too much.
Like I'm gonna die if I stay here.
That just attests to something to me where it's more than just a hysteria, especially when it's one person. He's there alone. He's not being influenced by anybody, but if he's seeing things and things are happening, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the Nanotalk.
Yeah, because I would say that if this wasn't happening, the town should have survived.
Should have thrived, actually. He just blended right in.
And it should be a still prevalent coastal town in Alaska.
Yeah. It'd probably be a fucking beautiful port. Like
it'd probably be a beautiful port to go fishing. Like
yeah, dude, it would be a tourist trap. 100% would.
It would be. It looks like it has beautiful views. Like the cliffs probably look amazing, and
you can technically drive to it.
Yeah, you can drive all the way there.
Yep, that's one thing that does make it one of those like
Well,
weird.
you probably can't right now, but
no, probably not now. Yeah, they probably fucking
block that. There might be one trail. I don't even know,
and it's probably an ORV trail for sure.
It's probably rugged.
But I mean, it's that vast frontier, dude. That's so unmatched by a lot of other places that we just don't know. I don't think we'll ever be able to know. I want to know. The only way that I'll be able to put my stamp of approval on it is if I go to Alaska and experience this vastness for myself. Aliens, see, they could be okay. So we can sit here and say it's Nanotalk, it's giants, or they're gods. One of the three has to be
serial killers,
serial killer gods. Nanotalk are gods that are serial killers.
So many things.
They're elemental gods that are serial killers. Boom, end it there.
Mic drop.
Dropped. Aliens. Boom, mic drop.
But I think we've beaten this subject to death at this point.
It's so cool. It's such a good subject, though. I really enjoyed this one.
This is a great topic. If you guys have a topic that you want us to cover, comment it down below.
Please do.
And we will cover it.
We'll
say it every week. We'll say it every week until we start getting
we looked today, didn't we? It was like 230 episodes now. If you can help us out with some stuff that we should cover, or honestly, if you think we should redux a couple of the old episodes where we might not have done its diligence because audio quality is poopy, or we could just do it better now with more information. any one of those, I'm good with it. Mermaids, okay, I'm gonna take that one into consideration.
Mermaids.
And say mermaids would be a fun one because not all mermaids are all like the movie quality mermaids. They're fucking death angels of the sea.
Looks like chat.
But Chad is just mermaiding city. Thank you, Jess.
Okay, mermaids got okay. Next week
Mermaids
is
is
mermaids
and sirens. That's
You
what
guys
it is.
got it.
Next
guys
week is
got it.
mermaids and sirens. Thank you guys. You guys are the fucking best. This is why the night crew is superior. Finn City. Holy shit. And there's the name right there. You guys are goated. Fucking Finn City.
And of course, if you're new here and you haven't yet, and you want to help us reach 1,000 subscribers,
tell your friends, get the word out there. Word of mouth never hurts. And if you do share, or if you are on Spotify or iTunes, it does not hurt us to get one of them like clicky clicks on the stars or the comments, because then it gives their algorithm the reason to say, hey, maybe we should like show other people this stuff. Because we like fun stuff. You guys give us fun topics. Like next week is going to be totally fucking awesome.
pour plunge. Yeah, if we get to man, if we have to do a pour plunge next week, that's gonna suck.
You bring me the tail, I will do it.
All right, yeah, and yeah, the thing is like if we hit 1,000 before it gets warm,
we'll hold it. We'll hold it or we'll do like a at-home super ice bath. Yeah,
1,000 subs. We're doing a pour plunge. So help us get there.
Either way, it's happening.
If you want to see us tortured, because if we had to do it tonight, we would die.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal.
Snowstorm. But anyways, y'all, thank you again, and remember to keep your ears and eyes open for it really goes
bump in the night. Peace. We love you.